Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Another great day to talk about markets, at least if you enjoy volatility. Another fake out, another, I guess we'll see what happens coming out of this weekend, right? We have another massive news headline. But we've got a great show planned for you guys today. And before I can get too deep into it, for starters, I'm Tommy. You also know me as Snorlax. I'm joined by Tucker, Louie, and of course, Max. Before we can get started, and I can kind of break down a bit more of the granularities of what happened yesterday, where we go here, I'm going to ask if you guys can smash the like button. We do have a special show planned for you guys today. I will say that. I'm not going to reveal why that's the case. You'll probably find that out in a little bit. But if you guys can smash that like button for us, we would be very, very appreciative. But yeah, let's talk about let's talk about the markets. We can and then we'll obviously preface the rest of the show. Yesterday, we had once again another conflict in the Middle East. At resistance. I mean, some chart guys will say it was planned, it was in the charts. Some will say, well, you can't plan for something like that. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because we did retrace the pump that we put in earlier this week. And now the question, of course, is where the market is going to go next, right? Bitcoin traded back down into 103K. ETH traded back into, I think, like 2440 was around the lows, and altcoins got annihilated. Sol underperformance was very present yesterday. I anticipate that's going to be a consistent theme that we see from the market, not to sound like a broken record. But yeah, I'm sure the question that everybody is asking is, well, there's probably a few of them, right? Is the low in? Will there ever be peace in the Middle East? Will we ever have an ETH breakout not coupled with Middle East turmoil? And lastly, will Tommy ever upgrade his internet? Maybe he did, but
and actually, Tommy, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's not even the last question.
You're right. That is, I did have one
question. Is will bears ever find a father figure?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Does Market Check have a special guest in store for its Friday audience today? I don't know. I think I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on the market. Amazing. All right.
The good news is that bears are gonna find their father figure today because we brought Dad home. Okay, Dad left. He went to go get some milk about 6 months ago, but he finally came home. He didn't bring the milk with him. Dad finally came home. Will?
He did.
Welcome back to the show, Will. What's going on?
How's it going? Yeah, I saw it
pretty well. It's going pretty well.
I saw a lot of people yesterday talking about, oh, this is the breakout. This is the breakout. And I was like, we're gonna see some volatility first. So I think this the hard part for a lot of people right now is just being able to withstand the volatility. A lot of people are just really struggling. Here's the thing. I think a lot of people this cycle specifically have overtraded heavily. And they've taken such a financial hit that it ends up kind of, putting them in a position to where they feel like they got to make that up before the blow off top. And the reality is like it's just a patience game. That's what this is. It's a patience game. If you can't be patient, then you can't make money. And that is what it is. I think overall, did I know that there was going to be a war? No, but I knew there was going to be a pullback. And I think that's what a lot of people always miss with trading is like it's always you don't always know what is in store for you. You just know when resistance is showing its ugly face. Now, is war the reason for the pullback? Possibly, or maybe the pullback was already happening before even the war discussion happened. And I think that's important to kind of understand too. Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. I think like overall, my expectations are still macro bullish, micro bearish, but I think micro bearish is not worth selling at this point. I think if you're going to sell like 109, that's what I was looking for originally. And damn, I here's the thing, I was, and I told you guys this. I was planning on opening a short at 109 and messed up, man. But I mean, in BB. All right, MBB, we've been taking some swings and getting some plays on some short side volatility, but ultimately I think up here it's pretty much vol. I think like there's a lot of factors here, with charts and so on and so forth. I think like if we look at
Will, do you want to pull up your chart for us?
Yeah, I'll pull up my chart. Okay. I think if we look at Bitcoin as a whole, like this is something that I brought up this morning. This right here was basically 2021, right? 2020 going into 2021. This was the market essentially. And I think if people kind of understood that a little bit better, they'd have been, better at odds with the market. So you have this trend that's kind of pushing the market up. You get a breakaway, pull back, breakaway, pull back, breakaway, but you're kind of hesitating here, right? And with that hesitation, you should have expected, the potential of a roll and a breakdown at some point. You shouldn't have just been expecting, infinite twop. And this is where a lot of people have a hard time, comprehending where things are. Whereas this market has been quite a bit different overall, but, expectations are still up. We've got a nice trend. We've been respecting that trend. Again, we just continue to hold and hold and hold the trend. Eventually it will break, but I think that break won't come until 2026 personally. I am still looking for a euphoric blow off top. Why would I look for that? What's the insinuation for the reason of that part of the discussion? Well, I would tell people like here was 2017 kind of signaling or bat signaling, right? The 2021 blow off top. And essentially this right here ended up hitting right into the 1618, right? So we tagged right into the 1618, hit 62K, obviously went a little bit higher, but what you should have saw here was the resistance, right? The resistance was the obvious part, I would say, to a degree, obvious for some, not for everybody. What the topping here is once you hit that 1618, you kind of resisted here. You broke out a little bit here, but then failed swinged right back underneath. And if we're looking for the same cycle top this cycle, I would arguably say we're probably looking for something relatively in the same camp. And that should put us somewhere around 174K Bitcoin. And if we're looking for 174K, what that tells me is that we continue to push up. It's just more linear, right? We got less exaggeration of price and more stable price liquidity. Now, the thing that a lot of people miss is we atypically, at least as of 2017 and beyond, we come down and we revisit these price actions based on the previous high. So we had this previous high retest right here, and then likely what we'll have for the next bear will be a previous high retest right here. Now, where is the most money made, arguably in the chart? It's typically made right up in this range, right? You just don't want to hold this range. You want to see this range kind of happen, and then you want to start kind of dialing out of that range as it's kind of occurring. And then likely we'll see some kind of, bearish move back down to here when we get into a bear market. But the first thing we need to see to confirm a bear market, which I'm sure a lot of people are asking that question, how to confirm a bear market? What do we need to see a bear market? So we need to see a break of trend. But as of right now, we're still in a what we call macro bullish trend. So I would stick with the macro bull, the micro bear. Now, what's making me micro bearish? If we were to take this chart and we were to just, ultimately come back and just clear it off, and we were to look at this as a whole, we have a nice uptrend, right? And a lot of traders don't know this, but even if you cut through some candles, it's okay. You just want to capture as much price action in a line, right? And that gives you your trend. So you don't have to be directly underneath price action. You just got to kind of be cutting through price action at the lows, and that will give you a low end trend. And then what do we notice typically with price action? We notice resistance, right? Resistance, breakout, resistance, breakout, resistance. And then basically same thing up here. We get more resistance. And then up here, we got more resistance. And up here, arguably, I would say we're getting more resistance. But again, this is just micro, right? If they want to roll it longer, it's just going to take longer and we'll land higher, right? But my targets are somewhere around like 90. If now here's the nuance. I'll give this conversation because a lot of people are like, it's not going to happen or blah blah blah. The point being is for 90K to happen, 90-ish K, we'll say, you need to see price break below 100. If you don't see price break below 100, price could very easily stay here, chat up, and do fine, right? A lot of people's argument is this right here. They're like, oh, you're above this range, you're safe, you're fine. But again, this I'll give them that, and I'll basically say, yeah, you are, unless you break below 100. If you break below 100, likely you're going to move into this range. But here's the thing too, we kind of did here. And if we see it happen again, likeliness the support is actually pretty weak. We break back into the 90K range. Now, again, if you think failed swings don't happen, I would arguably tell you to go back to 2021 and take a look. They do happen. Now, I'm not saying bear market, but what I'm saying is you got to understand when you see a failed swing. If you break below here, it's going to be a failed swing. You're going to likely come back down and retest trend, and then you'll move off of that. That's what I would look for here. So from a TA perspective, price action perspective, this is my thoughts. Again, ending somewhere around 170-ish K as your 1618 overall for the market. Not to mention, this is another one too I pointed out that a lot of people are not willing to accept is, we have a gap here on the weekly on SPX that pushes us all the way down to 5,700. I don't know what'll happen with the war thing. Maybe there'll be another scare. Maybe somebody will actually, fire at somebody else. Maybe it'll be some other event. But I do think that we'll revisit this gap before we see a breakaway in price action. Now, you're probably like, well, you just drew this. What is this? This is like a worst case scenario, right? This is all markets end. But I don't think that this is the likely scenario. I think this gap fill and then go. And why did I draw this? Because you have the market continuing to resist this range. Again, you got to be able to identify this rounding top, right? It's continuing to resist that range. Something else I pointed out to the BB when we were talking about it, because you're probably like, and I called this move too when it happened based on trend. I said we're going to break and hit this high. I called this because of this high. And why would I try and catch this? Because it's happened time, right? Again, same thing, same range, and time again. Again, breakaway, same range, we retest. So these are just those ranges that you got to kind of pay attention to and understand gap fills do happen with price action. Not to mention the most disgusting chart in crypto, right? The Solana chart. And this is something I've talked about in many streams where you got Solana basically mimicking Pepe. That's what it's doing. So my anticipation is whatever Pepe does, Solana will do. If Pepe goes down, Solana's going down. If Pepe goes up, Solana's going up. And people can accept that or they can deny it. But I would tell you, look at the chart. It's exact. I mean, honestly, like, look, you can see me on both screens. Breakaway, right? Look. It's the same exact chart all the way through and through. Monthly chart. Easiest day to tell. You got a VIX moving in an uptrend, which is kind of dangerous, right? We want to see this start cooling back down, and we want to see this get hit. So for right now, you're just going to continue to see spikes as long as you continue to trend this direction, which is what we are doing with VIX. And then oil is kind of signaling. It is still macro bearish, right? Based on the high-end trend here, but it's kind of signaling that war might be imminent. right? And if oil goes back bullish, that's not going to be good for assets in general. So you got to be kind of cautious with that. I'm not even going to get into
that resistance.
Yeah, oil's at you can see right here. Oil's right at resistance. It's right on trend.
This looks like it has one more puke candle coming.
Mhm.
Especially when you have, I've seen like 4 or 5 calls in the last 12 hours for like high oil prices too. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would like to see a puke, but you need to get back below this support range.
Yeah.
You have to break back below that. If you can break back below that, for sure you're getting a puke. And you're not just getting a little puke, you're getting a puke all the way down the trend. And some of you are probably like, where'd you get that trend from? Boom, boom, break a trend, retest the trend, and then go. That's what I think is going to happen kind of with the oil overall. It's got a long time frame trend right here, all the way back to 99. So, I mean, I wouldn't really argue with that. Now, some people are like, well, your trend broke here. No, this is an anomaly. I mean, look at this.
I think you get a I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a generational buying opportunity, but like a really great buying opportunity coming on oil at some point in the next year. Because I'm with you, Will. Like I look at that chart and I know the high time frame flows are bullish. I mean, everybody on X has been kind of making that same statement. I don't, I'm not going to debate whether oil flows are bullish or not, but I look at the chart and that looks like a pretty clearly defined downtrend to me. Like eventually it will load a candle that you're not going to want to bid, but you probably should.
Oh, we lost you, Will.
Muted.
You're muted or something.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I was muted. No, I was saying that most people, we'll either get a bid from, we'll get a dump from higher or lower, but most people, they want this to happen again. It's just like the whole 2008 discussion. When somebody mentions 2008, I just mute them on the timeline. It's just like, you're just talking nonsense. You're trying to get clickbait because 2008 was a once in a lifetime situation. It really was. And a lot of people are not accepting of that. They think it can be repeated. It can be repeated, but it'll likely never be the same market. It'll likely never be the same time frame. There's a lot of things that factor into that. And I think like so many people see these once in a lifetime opportunities and they think that, oh, I'm gonna be the next Michael Burry and call it again. And it's like, no, you're not. Michael Burry got lucky, just like a lot of people did that called it, right? And I think that, looking for those opportunities is, kind of like throwing a quarter in a wishing well. You could throw it in there, but your wish isn't going to come true. So overall, again, I think that people that are crying about price action, it was foretold. It was foretold. I do want to point that out. I threw it on the timeline, threw it in BB. I told people, hey, looking for some dipping here. Did I know there was a war? No. Did I see resistance? Yes. I think it was very obvious that we were kind of rolling here, right? And now we got to see if the bulls will come out to play. If they can continue to hold the range, it's a good possibility we can shift away from it. But the more and more you retest the range, and I'm sure you guys know this, the weaker and weaker it becomes, whether that be support or resistance. And so we'll see if this kind of holds. But the strongest thing I could say here on Bitcoin is the uptrend, right? The macro uptrend is very strong. I like it. I think it looks really good. And I'm bullish on that. The other one too, that kind of looks like, we'd call it what it is, but this right here looks like shit. It's basically ETH. And this thing is just like sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off. But all you see on the timeline is BlackRock's buying, Trump's buying, Michael Saylor's buying, everybody and their mom's buying. But it just, continues to do this crap. I'm bullish on the news that people are buying, but I'm not convinced that it's going to happen right this moment, right? I'm not quite convinced. So there's that one. And then obviously Coinbase, another one too. I really don't like seeing this rejection. I'm not going to lie. This is, man, like I'm not being bearish on this, but can dev do something? You had the strong uptrend, you broke the uptrend, you came back, retested the uptrend, and now you're rejecting again. So does that mean sideways chop? Right? What does this mean? That's really what it kind of tells me. So I have to really kind of pay attention here. Deviation. But you do have a strong support range right around 140, 149, 147, something like that. So it's not like I'm saying, it's over,
so
bro.
If you actually, I have it drawn a little different. If you can maybe go full screen on Coinbase, I have it breaking out of a major uptrend, which goes the other way. I have it on the daily. Maybe that'll be easier. But
what do you think of this, Louis?
Breakout imminent.
This right here.
I have if you take the IPO price, are you in log?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I do most of my charting in linear, but if you chart it in linear, and you draw a trend line from the IPO price, linear here. Yeah, and then you take a trend line from the high of the IPO price and you bring it down. I have it breaking out of a clear downtrend if you take it from that IPO price. Wick high.
You're saying right here?
No, from the IPO wick high, literally the highest price in the chart.
Right there?
Draw it down. Yep. And then you draw it down and across. I have it breaking out of that downtrend here.
You're saying like like this?
No, a little higher up on that second high. Don't count that first bounce. Yeah, there. That's how I have it drawn. I have it breaking this downtrend. I have it coming into big horizontal level where we're at now. And yeah, of course, we're at resistance. But you flip that horizontal level. What is that? 275. There's really nothing but air. For me. So this is how I'm looking at it, but I guess that's the difference from linear versus log.
They arguably look about the same.
Yeah.
They look about the same. They don't look much different, linear or log on this. It's just linear is just, less exaggerated, but I would argue that the chart hasn't changed much at all for linear and log. The issue I'm seeing here, I'm just gonna be.
I think Coin looks a lot like Solana, which makes sense because it's basically just trading as beta to Bitcoin and ETH at the end of the day. So, if you think that Solana's current range is effectively macro distribution, then Coinbase's is probably the same. But if you think that this is kind of just a consolidation before eventually higher prices, I would view performance in the same way, right? I mean, we've been pretty bearish on Sol pairs here for a while. Maybe we get some sort of bounce here in the near term on some of those pairs, but I'm personally expecting some chop from Solana before higher eventually. I'm not quite sure what to think of Coin. I guess since it's trading a little bit more correlated to ETH, that's a bit of I would consider it a tailwind because I think ETH looks so much better than Sol right now. Which Will would probably say doesn't say a lot, but I think at least, being beta to ETH here is a better bet than beta to Sol. I guess this is kind of like around the spot I would like to see Coinbase form a higher low. One of the things that we were kind of talking about before we went live was, and I think this sentiment's probably echoed across the board when you look at every shitcoin, but Bitcoin, Will kind of already mentioned it. If you start to trade below, I think, last night's lows, then you're probably looking at a wipe closer to 90K. And obviously altcoins are going to not have a good time if that's the case. But I tend to think that these lows are going to hold on Bitcoin. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the price action that we saw last Friday, actually, where, we had the beeline down. Maybe we don't recover in the same way, but yeah, I kind of like what we've seen thus far out of equity markets, not just completely immolating more. They've actually rebounded pretty nicely throughout New York session.
Yeah, I think I was just fighting Coinbase a little bit, but I think
I hate Coinbase too, Will. So I'll allow it.
I think overall Coinbase looks much worse than ETH from a structure standpoint. Structurally, I'd say ETH is more like in a downtrend, so a down to go up, whereas like Coinbase looks like, I don't know, like it looks kind of distributive. Like this is, I'm not saying it's a head and shoulders, but hey, it's eerily similar, right? It's eerily similar. I don't know how you can go much lower than this green line, but hey, maybe it happens. The thing is, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to more trade sideways. And you know, I like to see this type of price action. This is the thing I try to tell people: like, look for this. Always look for this downtrend. It's down to go up, right? Always look for these downtrends, because if you get another downtrend, it's down to go up. And likely, if you get another downtrend that looks something like this, you'll come down, you'll go up bigger, right? And arguably, too, I would say look at this right here from these highs. You could almost call the next high based on that trend, right? Based on that resistance trend. So that's something that's pretty interesting too. Log off, log on. I think it might be a little bit easier, but you could basically do the same thing here. Yeah, same thing here. Yeah, I don't know. I think like right now, you know, people just need to kind of relax. Don't freak out. I was looking at total today too. Total's really close to my bottom end price target. We got total 2 right here. You're really close to that bottom trend, right? Like extremely close to that bottom trend. And, you know, if things end up working out in the way I think they will, there's a good potential we can hit this red box, which will put us at like 3 to 4 trillion. And then same thing here with total 3. I mean, look at total 3. Like this is so close to that trend. It's absolutely disgusting. This is my whole thesis with 90K Bitcoin, right? Like it's like even if you hit 90K, you're so close to this trend that the likely scenario here is that you're going to get a big pop off move, right? A big jump up based on that. Because what you're doing in a lot of these cases, what I'm seeing is price is actually coiling, right, into the trend. Doesn't matter if it comes down more or any of that stuff. It's coiling into the trend and it's looking to shift away. It's not coiling to the trend to break down, because if it was going to break down, they would yank it up and then they would pull it down. That's your blow off top. So you should expect an opposite move before you ever see a move back down below trend. That would be my thoughts.
I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on this comment, because this is something that I've also been watching this morning pretty closely, right? We talk a lot about our market leaders, our risk on sentiment, and kind of what that looks like, right? But Hyperliquid it's showing, I think, a lot of resilience today. Maybe it's leading Bitcoin, maybe it's not, but I mean, it's been kind of the cleanest uptrend throughout the entire, you know, I won't even call it a bull run off the local lows yet. A bull run for Hyperliquid, certainly. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Hyperliquid right now, and Will, I'd love to know your thoughts as well. It kind of dipped right back into trend and it kind of looks ready for new highs, looking at it right now.
I'll pull up Hype, but look at Fetch. That's a beautiful chart, man. That's a beautiful chart. Pulling right in the trend. Just so you know, Oliver, what the hell is bro talking about? I'm talking about the milk I'm about to bring back home. All right. In about an hour or so. So be ready. I'm talking about momentum.
Dr. Outlook moment.
All right. Momentum. We have to understand what momentum is. If you get somewhere, you know, in the high school levels of high school, you take things like that basically explain momentum. They explain. You also take geometry, right? You take some math classes. You learn a little bit about inertia, right? And you understand that price has to come down to go up, just like momentum causes things to react to gravity, and so on and so forth. Charts are like gravity, or they're like action and gravity. So when things shift really far away, they tend to come back home, right? They shift really far away, they tend to come back home. It's like throwing a ball in the air. The harder you throw it up, the faster it comes back home. That's how it works. So pull away, rip down, pull away, rip down. That's what we're seeing with price action. So again, fetch looks really good. I'll pull up this one looks like shit. Let me pull up hype real quick. I like how it says iShares, as if that's a thing. Which chart? Binance?
Just do the
that's perps.
the crypto one.
The US dollar?
Yeah, that one will work fine.
This? You want me to analyze this?
Yeah, man. I mean,
Like-
look at the way it's eating up this dip on a lower time frame. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, man, let me look. That's weekly, daily. Here, let's do the good old Fibonacci. How about that? I mean, Fib's telling me 80. That's what it's telling me. Doesn't mean it'll get there, but Fib is telling me 80. I could see that in a blow off top scenario. So maybe a 2x from here.
What's crazy is I have that same $8 level based off the Sui fractal.
Oh, the Sui fractal.
Yeah, same target, just around $80.
Yeah, I mean that's all I really have because like you're in price discovery. What else are you going to use to analyze price, right? You can use fractals, you could use fibs, but like there's no way to really tell once you start hitting price discovery. The best way to take price action is take it when it's at its low and kind of be like, all right, where do I look to buy? I mean, this is a very predatory coin if you think about it, Tommy. Like this is really kind of messed up. They ran it below floor, right?
Yeah, I would also say I was a little surprised that the downtrend only lasted like a month when the distribution was almost 2 or 3. So yeah, it's kind of it kind of trades like a pain in the ass. But if you're a holder, obviously you love holding this coin. It eats up any dips, and obviously the best feature about the token is that they're buying it back when traders lose money, which is all the time.
All the time.
For now, right? I feel like this is going to be another Luna situation, to be honest with you.
I don't know if it's in the Luna,
different
but I do think
aspects.
there's something to the point where, if it's up only season and everybody is making money, that might mute the token performance. And I think that's something to probably be aware of. Hype probably tops before the rest of the market, if you want my honest opinion.
Yeah, but when does the house not win, Tommy?
When everything's going up, the house is probably not winning. I mean, they might be winning if they were a Binance, for example, and it's their coins going up. But I guess, because I remember with GMX back in 2022 and 2023, the token stopped going up when the market started going up. And that was because traders were finally making money. Price was trending instead of ranging or in a downtrend. And it was just much harder for the protocol to make money at that point. So I think you'll probably see something similar play out with Hyperliquid.
Yeah, I think what you'll see, this is my thought process and why I brought up Luna, is you'll see at some point through the market, once people get washed enough, trading just kind of become mute. And once trading becomes mute and people have a bunch of hype token, what do you think is going to happen?
They're going to dump it. Well, they already did airdrop a huge portion of the supply. I think they'll do it again later this year.
Yeah.
They're a lot smarter than the Luna team, I will say that.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about like they've planned this, but what I'm talking about is just, the ultimate ending of most of these things that are based off of hype. I think the name fits the coin very well. Right. And I think that when you drive hype, these type of things will do well. When hype goes away, these type of things absolutely shred, right? When you in a market that has no liquidity, this thing will not thrive. It will not thrive.
Oh, absolutely not. Every time people say that an L1 is going to be insulated from market downtrends, it never happens. It never happens. I mean, that's just kind of like the reflexivity that we see in altcoins. I mean, I think about Hype was the strongest token for a long time. The rest of the market was absolutely tanking while Hyperliquid was in. We didn't know if it was distribution or accumulation. It felt kind of obvious that it was distribution to me at the time, but I mean, it was showing that strength, and then all of a sudden, towards the very end of the Bitcoin and ETH downtrend earlier this year, Hyperliquid finally just like nuked 60 to 70%. So, it will happen again. And every time people stop themselves into thinking that a coin is too strong not to do that, it's going to happen. I think I said this yesterday, and I'm sorry for cutting you off, Will, but
very good.
I mean, we were talking about Kita, and I thought Kita was going to make a run for maybe $3 or $4. I don't have any exposure. Maybe it still does. But I think one thing that you have to know about every altcoin, it doesn't matter what you're trading. Every altcoin is going to have a 70 to 80% drop loading from local highs. I mean, it's a feature and a bug. But it is why we play these markets, right? For that volatility, for that opportunity. But it's going to happen to every single altcoin. There is not one altcoin that has ever proven that theory wrong.
As long as you're understanding that going into trades, I think you're fine. But I think not enough people are understanding that, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to hold Hype for the next 5 years and make a lot of money on it because it's going to go up only. It's like, no, just like Solana, these things drive off of volume and they drive off of liquidity. And when liquidity dries up, what does well? Historically, Bitcoin does well. Why does Bitcoin do well? Because people store value there. And when you store value, you're not worried about price go down or price go up. So your downside is muted compared to other coins that are just driven off of volume and driven off of zero value. They're just driven off of liquidity and volume. I would say this too, to your question there, Tommy. What do you see here and what do you see here?
I see two things with Hyperliquid, right? I mean, it's a slow grind into price discovery, which means it's either going to do, we're either getting a gap up candle probably very soon, or you're going to start to see it maybe enter distribution, locally speaking. I've kind of compared it to, I don't hate the Sui fractal, for example. I've kind of compared it to Near in 2021. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's just running back what BNB did in 2019, which, if that is the case, probably going to enter distribution here after another like 10 to 20%. And then I think it's going to slowly bleed back down. I guess it just kind of depends on what the broader market's going to end up doing at the end of the day.
Now, I'm not saying this is actually bearish because there's a couple ways this could play out. I think RSI wise, this is distributive up to here, right? And now you're kind of cooling down. But if you can hold this 50, you could definitely run it back up again, right? And if that were to happen, at that point, you continue to do this, right? Up to that price range we discussed earlier. You'll probably hit like 80, 82, maybe 85, somewhere relatively in that range. And that would be you just holding the top range. But once the market as a whole goes into a bear market, you'll break this range and you'll come down to there and you'll likely at least come back down and retest this, if not lower. So I would say, like, if people are playing this play, I wouldn't even try and stretch it to all the way up to 80. I would just start chopping exactly like you said, 20, 30% more and start cutting out of this position and rotating somewhere else where I see opportunity. As a trader, obviously, right? I don't think these things are investment tokens. I think they're trading tokens in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't be investing in this. I would just be looking to trade it. And so I would be cutting this trade, a little bit higher and then, moving it somewhere else.
Well, I like Hyperliquid beta because if you think that we're about to see Hype enter distribution, or that, the next leg we start to see the beta pop off, I mean, typically they're not really that far away, those two things. But I think whenever you start to see Hyperliquid enter distribution, you're going to start to see its beta outperform, which has kind of been the thesis for Per. You know how I love my cat coins. I think you'll start to see per outperform when that happens.
Yeah. Somebody said SPX is loading a rotation. I think SPX is definitely kind of hesitating here, right? And I would really like to see, it's not a hope or anything like that, but I want to see
XPX 6900 will.
Oh, gotcha. Oh yeah, he did say 6,900. Yeah, gotcha. I do want to see this gap fill. I absolutely want to see this gap fill. 6,900. Look, should I tell them the truth, Tommy? Should I tell them the truth about
900?
Yes.
I don't know what the truth about the coin is.
Do you want to hold it or do you want to make money?
It's one of the only coins in an uptrend right now, though.
It is. It's in a strong uptrend, but when's the best time to sell?
That's true. You'd rather be a willing seller than a forceful one.
Yes, exactly. Willing sellers are better than forced sellers, and at some point you become a forced seller. So you have to decide at the end of the day. How do you want to approach it? Do you want to keep on betting that it will continue to go up, or do you want to be able to sell into basically volume that's makes the coin liquid for now? Me personally, I'm a volume seller. I sell right into volume, but everybody approaches it their own way. You can hold it for the rest of the cycle if you want, hope that it goes higher. But when you see opportunity like you see in SPX 6900, I would say seize the moment. That's my own perspective. What do you think on this, Max? What are your thoughts?
On the chart in front of us or SPX 6900?
SPX 6900.
Well, first and foremost, it was one of the only memes that actually curled up to make I think it actually made a new all-time high, didn't it? Like this week. If not, it got really, really close. I don't watch it super closely.
It did make all-time high. Yeah. It broke out. Yeah.
So, that's given where like ETH is at, and that it is ETH beta at its core. You can't really take anything away from it at that point. I mean, that's a huge, huge feat. I think before it really blasts off, it will be dependent on ETH actually going into price discovery, just like basically every other shitcoin out there. But you have to give credit where it's due. And to actually even just curl back up there is a huge, huge accomplishment and a huge sign of strength. So I think that says a lot. I also think it's kind of an interesting and unique narrative where, like, if stocks end up curling back up and ripping from here, which is kind of generally my bias, is that stocks will keep going up. My thought is that if SPX actually goes to 6,900, like the stock market, you kind of have like a perfect catalyst to just keep like cheering on the meme SPX 6,900. So it's a contender, man. It really is. And like, I think the biggest thing is you have a cult leader that is willing to do just about anything necessary. And that's actually really important for a meme, is to have like a guy or, a few guys that are willing to stick their neck out and like continue to cheer it on. So yeah, I mean, I don't own any. I'm into a different ETH narrative, but I mean, you can't take anything away from SPX 6,900, man. I mean, it's just look at the chart, like that's kind of a weird little curl up there. And honestly, I wish it was timed out a little bit better with like an ETH breakaway, like above 3K, but
completely agree on that.
I don't think it'll matter too much. I guess I would just hate to see it get stalled out here if ETH chops for another couple weeks. But I mean, I think it's a really good sign for the entire meme space that you have any meme, especially one this large, curling up, making a new all-time high, holding pretty strong, I mean, I think I don't see why it wouldn't continue to do well. I think it's certainly proven itself. So it's kind of my initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, I look at it more of a rotational play. So I think like when you start getting closer to these highs, like it makes sense to, to a degree, based on the liquidity that's here and the lack of liquidity we're seeing in the rest of the market. I've done this a few times, just swing the highs and then roll it back down, pick it back up, and then swing the highs and roll it back down and pick it back up. Because like I feel like these bottoms are much easier to kind of see than a lot of people are putting on. Like you could see this one's perfectly around, and then you get the breakout distribution, heavy distribution. And again, you just get that rounding bottom again, right? And once you start to see this flat, and here's the thing, like this is very calculated, very predatory in some ways, but you get this flat bottom where they're basically protecting price in this range. You can see it right here overall, but you're kind of just like protecting this price range. You had a big dip down here, which ended up ultimately kind of lining up with this downtrend. And then all you did was protect price here and then shifted it away. And now you're kind of back up here where a lot of people got trapped, and you're seeing already a sell-off into that trap. And, do you play like this now and then break, or how does this play out? But ultimately, like for me, I would swing trade this back down. I would. That's just my own perspective. I think momentum is waning here. One reason why is RSI, right? Your RSI up here, there was a lot of buying pressure up here. And then down here, it's almost like not as much buying pressure. And so you're equaling highs with less buying volume. And you're bound to see this. You're bound to see a lack of interest as time goes on. And likely, I think you'll swing back into the 50, bring you back into a previous, maybe even right up here, right? Maybe this is that range. But you'll see some kind of swing back down that you can take another swing at this and swap. I think these are tradable coins. I think they're tradable coins to a degree. I think there's opportunity to trade them. And I think that, from a trading perspective, I would just swing this and cut here and wait for some kind of dip. I don't know. I think overall the market is it's providing. It's just doing it a lot slower than what we did previously. I mean, like, look at this. This was, again, we pointed this out in BB here, but this was the trend here, 2020 to 2021. You got this big breakaway of just up only. And now we're just getting this plop, 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 plop. That's all we've been doing the whole time. So it's a less exciting market for sure. It is still an uptrending market. It's still a bull market. I think the most excitement we're going to see is the blow off top. Personally, I think that's going to be the most excitement, and most people will be unwilling sellers at that point. They'll be telling people to bid more, bid more, bid more, and they'll come a top that will just not stop dropping at some point. What are your thoughts, Louis?
As far as this trend line goes, personally, I think a fourth tap that you're showing there, which is totally possible, right? We're at all-time high resistance until proven otherwise. I think a fourth tap on this rising trend line would be more bearish than bullish, in my opinion. Like you said earlier, the more times the trend line is tested, the more likely it's going to break, right? I like the 3 tap, right? One off the lows, one on that 8-month consolidation range, one off the recent 100 some odd day pullback. I think it's time to go. I really do. Although I could definitely see consolidation up here, and this is total possibility, right? Again, we're at resistance, but to me, if we're coming back to this trend line, I think that would be more bearish. Like I really wouldn't want to see that. And that's just not the bull in me saying that. That's just like the technical side of me. But at the end of the day, it's a high time frame uptrend, right? So it's the trend until proven otherwise. So we could come down, test it, shoot off like you're showing there. In my mind, the third tap, after the third tap, we should start to see that separation in my opinion. That's why, although we're at resistance, just the timing of everything, where we're at in the cycle, how things are looking across the board. I think, we have a good shot at going from here without doing that move. But again, there's no way to tell, right? There's no way to know for sure until, we get that true break of all-time high,
But
and we've stabbed above it. But
I do have a conversation piece that I think, is a good one.
Fire away.
So I think that if we're sitting there and we're talking about, why or why not, I would say, again, just arguably say that's August, right? And then right here's August again. And then if we come over here again, that right there would be August again. And what I can tell you in the past, years since 2022, here's 2023, August was the low, right? Here's 2024, August was the low. And arguably, once again, here's 2025, August could be the low.
right, yeah, we have been very, it's been very slow, agonizing summers for the last couple of years, which has been historically what we've seen. What I would say is, seasonality wise, we should have seen, well, not should have, but if you're looking back at the data, January, February, after a halving year, usually is crazy bullish, right? But it wasn't. So because of that, I'm more open to having a more bullish summer in the more near term. That's like the only thing that has me tilted still for a move sooner rather than later. That's really kind of where I'm at.
I can see a world where Bitcoin goes sideways. I do think we still get that ETH outperformance, for a few weeks. I don't think we get the Sol outperformance, but I'm open to a world where Bitcoin goes sideways here for a little bit. Because I kind of think at the end of the day, it's the summer. Bitcoin's going to be a little bit more tethered towards the flows that we're seeing in stocks. It's just kind of a fact. And I think you're seeing that in real time, right? Like yesterday, as well as like the strength that we see on buybacks. It's very similar to what we see from stocks. But I think that, that low liquidity environment, Bitcoin potentially just going sideways, like that opportunity for ETH to run, I do think is present here into the end of the month.
Yeah. I would arguably say, I think a lot of people are just viewing this too bearishly, right? The reality is it's just trading sideways. That's all it's doing between two ranges, right? And what we see or tend to see typically is after that trade sideways, we tend to shift away. And so
we're still optimistic on Joyful June as a collective. Is that what I'm hearing?
Hey, maybe we get a little mini altcoin season, right? Mini, not the real altcoin season. Because I think real altcoin season is Q4. I really do.
Boy, we gotta wait that long, huh?
I mean, it's not that far. It's not that far, man. It's very close. It's a couple months away.
I think about how quickly the first half of this year just went by.
Yeah, crazy. I feel like I blinked and like years have gone by.
It's over.
It's
over, bro. Like, look at this. All these years we've been just sitting here watching this thing capitulate. But
all we do is wait for the real pump to begin. That's all we've ever done.
That's all we do.
All we do is just wait for the big pump. That's it.
But I think like looking at this, like here's the thing. This is like two tops. I'm showing it as two, but reality it's kind of like this, right? 1, 2, 3. Everyone has resulted in up. That's my expectations right now, man. Like, and then I think we get cooked in 2026. Right. I think we're gonna get cooked.
Will, what's your cycle top target right now? I feel like it's been like 6 months since I last asked you.
170Ks. But anywhere from mid to high hundreds.
Okay, I can get behind that. What do you think about like ETH and Sol and BNB? I know that's a
ETH's
little
tough one,
tougher
man.
because anything can happen with shit coins, but
I'd like to see ETH in the 8K, 10K range. That's what I'd like to see.
I think would you think it'd be fair to say that if ETH doesn't go to 10K this cycle, it's just a disappointment and should be probably ruled out for previous ones? Because that's not even, dude, that's not even a 2x. Like 8K is not even a 2x from the previous cycle high, you know?
That is true, but I can't put my finger on the conversation with ETH specifically, but I'm seeing too many big players scooping them. I
And
can't.
by the way, I'm not even directing that comment at you because honestly, 8K seems like a dream at this point, given how bad ETH has been. But
Yeah,
it's just if ETH doesn't have a tremendous like late stage of the cycle here, like there's no reason that crypto shouldn't 2x, you know, ETH shouldn't 2x its previous all-time high. That is like, there's no reason to hold it at that point. Like for next cycle unless something dramatically changes about it, because you're barely even tracking like the stock market at that point. Like every 5 years the stock market does the same as ETH, if not more, and it's more stable and has less pullbacks. You know, it's a way better investment. So I think if ETH doesn't go to 10K, like that's to say it even had a decent cycle, it has to go to 5 figures in my opinion. ETH went to almost 5K last cycle, but maybe I'm being too tough on it.
Nah, I think I think
be tougher.
I think with ETH specifically, like I can't be bearish on it. It's just you got too many people buying ETH, and I'm talking institutions. I'm talking, obviously the president, the White House. Like there's just too many people involved. My thought process is if it doesn't perform this cycle, it'll perform next. I'm not gonna. It's almost like when people gave up on Solana after 2021, right? People said this thing's not going to do anything. It's cooked. It's done. It's a done protocol. And then it ended up doing very well this cycle. And I think that 2028 will be 2021 2.0. And the reason, and I'll give the rationality behind that, is that this cycle was never going to be 2021. And the rationale behind that is rates, right? Rates were always going to suppress the market cycle. Granted, you could make a ton of money and money printing.
Or should I say lack of money printing?
Yes, and borrowing, right? People are not incentivized to borrow and or spend. And then tariffs also kind of put a damper on spending, right? A lot of people didn't see that one coming. Well, they saw the tariffs coming, but they didn't realize how much it would dampen spending. Because when people are like, oh, the people thought people were going to spend up front because of tariffs, people are like, no, I'm just not going to spend it all. I'm not going to buy anything. And so you've seen spending go down significantly due to that. And I think that when you put out all your eggs in one basket and you think about it from a bigger perspective, 2028 likely will have low rates, likely will have money printing, likely will have the correct environment for a real bull market. So even though this one's been exciting, I feel like we've made a ton of money. Tons of people should have made a ton of money if they weren't overtrading. I think next cycle will be the real kind of kingmaker cycle.
You did mention that overtrading now a few times. I think you're spot on to say that what has really plagued people is overtrading, but specifically it's what they've been overtrading. Because I think in previous cycles, what plagued people was trading futures too aggressively, using too much leverage, taking, like the quick ref link deals to get deposit bonuses, getting liquidated. I'm feeling like this cycle is a lot more of like on-chain rotations into literal scams. So it's just repackaged, right? It's the same idea, but repackaged, where very few people out there right now, and this is a bit anecdotal, this is not something I can truly measure, it's impossible. I don't think that a lot of people out there have core spot holdings. I think a lot of people that follow us closely do, but I don't think that many people have like, half of their money that's liquid in crypto in assets they're going to hold for like a year at least. I think,
or if they have, those altcoins have like hugely underperformed. I think that huge percentage of people fall in there too.
I would agree with that also. So I think it's a combination of general altcoin underperformance, but mainly what's been plaguing people is like, because of that underperformance that Tommy just spoke of, they're like, I got to do something to make up for it. I'm just going to buy the new shill of the week, you know, and then they don't get liquidated, but they draw down 90%, you know, and they do that over and over and over again instead of finding solid plays that have a decent chance of actually performing when the market turns back up. So I just think it's like a combination of, it's really value destruction is what it is. Instead of people getting liquidated and that money moving into smarter hands, it's literally like value destruction. It's extraction. It is shitcoin extraction where people pump these shitcoins up. They're a house of cards. Somebody rugs it or a team of people rug it and they take that money out of crypto and it never finds its way back. So I think that's what's been plaguing this asset class mainly is just true extraction. Like every bit of like liquidity that seems to find its way into the market immediately finds its way out because of criminals, truthfully. That's a huge problem that I think.
That is exactly it. A lot of people don't realize that. Like I posted the other day on Twitter, I said, do not buy fresh launches. So I don't care how much conviction anybody tells you. I don't care what it is. Like, and you know, maybe some L1s or something like that, but new memes, absolutely not. It's like you are just going to get destroyed. You're going to get destroyed.
Tommy said this yesterday. I'm sorry to jump in here, Will. I think you said it yesterday. You said it this week. You're like, if you're still looking for new memes at this phase of the cycle, like more or less something's gone horribly wrong. You know, like you should have your picks by now. At least know what they are. It's very unlikely that some like new meme is going to hit the scene and like take over. There's going to be a new cabal shitcoin that runs to 500 million and then crashes and goes to zero. That'll happen. But like an SPX 6900, a Pepe, Brett, I'm going to throw my shills in there because honestly, they're smaller, but they've stood the test of time. The Boys Club, right? Andy Wolf. Like there's plenty of other. I'm cherry picking my favorites because it's my show. It's our show. I can say what I want, but it's like your memes are in there too. You know what I mean? Like if your meme has gone through multiple ETH pullbacks of minus 60 to 70% and is still above a 20 million market cap with like 10,000 plus holders, it's probably going to pump hard when ETH finally breaks higher. That's the truth. You know, insert any meme ticker you want if it meets that criteria and it's going to do fine. But anyways, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Will.
No, you're good. Like that's what I'm doing too. I'm literally just DCAing stuff that I've believed in and that I'm, you know, playing and stuff like that. And I'm just continuing to buy those things. I'm not looking to catch the next hot play. I'm not looking to catch the next hot rotation. I've gotten burned way more times following somebody who told me, hey, this is the next play, than I have just buying the coins that I, you know, believe will do well this cycle. And here's the thing too, there's going to be a lot of people fudding this thing all the way until the euphoric stage. They're going to be upset all the way into the euphoric stage. You all will be in profit in the euphoric stage. The problem is that you all will not sell in the euphoric stage. And I'm talking to the audience specifically. You're going to believe that it's going to keep going. You're going to get caught in the sauce and you're going to be part of the exit liquidity. You have to know when to fold your cards. Like, all right, this hand is cooked. I gotta take what I got here and I gotta walk away. And I can tell you a lot of people are going to be looking to make up losses in the euphoric stage. They're not going to get there. It's not going to happen. You got to take what you can get going into euphoria. And then if you make profit, amazing. If you don't make profit, you know, it is what it is. Don't get caught in the like, oh, I got to wait till profit comes to me. Because I'm telling you, this last part of the cycle, you should ideally make money if you play the things you believe in. Not here's the thing that I've been telling people lately, Max, is like, don't buy other people's conviction. If you don't have conviction in your,
you cannot borrow it.
Yeah,
you can't borrow it.
It's not borrowable.
Because here's the thing: is you could follow. Okay, let's just talk about Murad for a second, right? We were talking about SPX 6900. You could follow him and turn your brain off and be like, well, this guy with a big following is really committed. He's not going to bail on it. I can confirm he's invested. All right, he did the research. He's doing all the legwork. I'll tail him on it. I'll buy SPX 6900, right? The problem is if you stop looking right there, and that's all the due diligence that you do, when it pulls back 60 or 70%, which it has and which it will again because it's a shit coin, every meme coin, every altcoin does, you're going to get shaken out unless you truly understand how it trades, why it trades the way it does, what moves it, who the players are. Like, you have to continue to look. If you're only relying on reassurance from an individual, whether it's Will, Louis, me, Tommy, we're talking about Murad, right, on a much larger scale, it's like, you are not going to have that type of conviction to hold through the pain. You simply will not. You can say, oh, well, if he's holding, I'll keep holding. Nope, you won't. You will get shaken out of your bags entirely. If you stop looking there, you will 100% sell at the wrong time. You know what I mean? It's impossible. You have to take that step yourself. You can look at other people's analysis, but you need to basically replicate it and understand it thoroughly, right? Which is why I spend so much time talking about my bags, right? Mainly because they're my bags, but the reasoning behind it, like if you guys tune into the Andy and Wolf spaces that I do like every week or two, you know, I'm not super consistent about it, but you understand what I'm saying. Like the depth in which I go to explain to people why I believe this narrative is strong, and I back it up with charts, and I share those charts so you guys can all replicate them and see it for yourselves. You can put your fingerprints on it. You can put your own spins on it. That's what gives somebody enough conviction, is show them how to do it, and they need to do it for themselves. So it's like, you simply cannot tail somebody into anything. You think that you can. You simply cannot, I promise. We've all tried to do it at one point when we were beginners. You cannot do it. You can use their analysis, but you must formulate your own opinions or you will get absolutely clobbered. I promise you that. Clobbered.
Well, the funny part is, Max, is like I watched a lot of people on multiple 100Xs that, you know, we threw out there. Like I gave out Crody. I watched a lot of people sell the floor and FUD me, right? And then it went to multi-millions. I mean, that was a 7-figure play. And then I watched things like GME, right? Everybody cried and cried and cried and cried and cried for 6 months that it wasn't moving, yada, 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 another 100X, right? And then so on and so forth. And this is what people do. They'll follow you into something. They'll sell the low. They'll FUD you out. And then once they're done FUDing, once it runs again, they say it's a scam.
Yeah, dude, that's the cycle of coping right there. You nailed it, bro. You know how many people, like, okay, for example, I'll just talk about Andy, right? Do you know how many people out there were like early Andy supporters that would send me DMs and be like, you know, I love you. I made so much money with Andy, like all this stuff. I've been super clear on what I'm doing. I've been holding Andy since April 1st of last year, over a year, man. April 1st. And I've done nothing but ad publicly. And then suddenly I'll get a DM from that same account 6 months later, basically being like, am I okay, Max? Like, it pulled back. Like, I'm down $5,000 or something like that, you know? And then if I don't respond to him, then it turns to anger, you know, then it turns to like, you're a scammer. And I'm like, dude, I'm down way more than you. Or, you know, like, I'm still sitting here. Like, nothing has changed. The thesis in which I invested upon, which I've shared publicly, and I'm just talking through my own experience. There's thousands of guys that you guys have gone through this, right? It's anybody, it's any coin, right? It's like the cope cycle of like, I'm borrowing conviction. It's not immediately going my way, or it's taking longer than I thought. And then it turns to anger and like blame, you know what I mean? And it's just the amount of it's the cope cycle, man, of borrowing conviction, you know. But there's also those people that have been literally holding something like Andy for over a year, and they're just like, yeah, I'm waiting for ETH BTC to pump. Like, that's been the thesis the entire cycle. Literally nothing's changed, you know. You can say it 1,000
That's the
different ways.
brain off thought process. There's nothing wrong with that process, I think, to a degree. I think just not enough people are willing to look at it from a logical standpoint. They're just like, pump now, pump now. They think if they scream into the mic enough times, it'll listen. It's like, that's not how markets work. You got to wait. And if you have conviction and you get a drawdown of like 90%, why are you not buying? Why are you wanting to buy when it flips?
Is like, you have to, and that's where you can't borrow conviction, is like in those, look at the balloons on my screen. I don't know what that
I don't get it. I don't
in the moments of like true fear, which is where the real money's made. If you're borrowing conviction, you will not have the nuts to step in. If you're not borrowing conviction, you will have the nuts to step in, right? Because that's part of playing the game, is dealing with that pain and then actually doubling down when it's appropriate. You need to know when to press, right? You need to know when to press the market. Okay. Oh, I'm down 70% in 2 weeks. Let's analyze this. Let's think through it. You got to know when to double up. You know, somebody raises you, you got to raise back. You know what I mean? You have to know when. You got to know when to fire your ammo off. You know, and in those pressure moments, you can't borrow that. You have to actually feel it. You know, you have to see it yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing I see with a lot of people. It's a lack of confidence in what they're doing, and it really shows a lot of the time, right? I can't even count the amount of times, Max, that I've had somebody come back to me and be like, "Man, I wish I would have held that. I was in so low when you gave it to me." It's
That's
and
real.
I tell it's real,
It's
but
real.
it only happens after the pump, right? After the pump, then they're like, "Where's a good place to enter?" No, there is no good place to enter anymore. You missed it. It is what it is. That's why I always tell people too. Like I try to be as little, as least dishonest as I can be. So when people come to me and I see a guy candle and they're like, "Where's a good place to enter?" I'm like, "You should have stayed in the play." I don't tell them to buy at all. I'm just like, you should have just stayed in the play.
Yeah.
Right now you have to wait for the next thing to come along. And I've watched certain individuals follow me into a play, sell the low, watch it pump 100x, then follow me to the next play, sell the low, and then watch it pump 100x. And then they're like, and they just keep doing this. And this just shows that they're trying to borrow my conviction to the play versus actually having their own conviction to the play. If you have conviction, you'll buy, you'll wait, you'll see a big drop, you'll buy again, you'll wait, you'll see a big drop, you'll buy again, or you'll even week by week DCA it, right? Some people do that too. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those strategies, but you got to be actually convicted to the plays that you're in. If you're looking for the big pump, it's down 90%. That's a bid. That's a bid. It's something to watch. It's just most people aren't willing to watch it.
And
I literally tweeted that yesterday. I was like, people would be so much better off if they did their buying on red days rather than green days. But it's the hardest thing to do, right?
Let me address this comment real quick from Techie Guy. And I don't think you meant it as a slight. You said Max is still sitting on a 200x on Andy at current prices. That's actually not true. I have never owned more Andy than I do right now. Right. So like if you went back to my first purchase and assumed that like that was my bag and that was all that I was holding, it's possible. I don't even know what the multiple's at. It's not a 200x. I think it maybe be more like 100x from like my very, very first purchase, right? But I've never owned more Andy than I do now. So like my adjusted cost basis is my actual cost basis on Andy is like over 10 mil. Absolutely. I might be up like an adjusted 5x or something like that because I've put so much more money into it. Because it's like, it's never been fully about the money for me. Obviously, I expect a big payday at some point, but it's about like showing that it can be done the right way. And when you guys go and buy a shitcoin, that some guy with a following tells you about, you hold them to a higher standard rather than like being like, well, I got rugged. I guess that's just crypto. You know what I mean? So it's like when Andy's pulled back or like needed some support at certain levels, like guess who steps in there? Like guess who steps in there and bids it? It's not some like mysterious guy. You're looking at him, So it's like I'm not actually up like 200x. Like maybe my first purchase is up a lot. But I mean, I'm probably up like 5x maybe. If I don't even know my actual cost basis, I'll figure that out when I sell it later, way, way, way down the line. But yeah, just, it's very nuanced, right? Like it's a tough game to play. Let me put it like that. Cause there's been many times when it's like, you'll be sitting there. And this is also what I wanted to show people this whole time is 99 out of 100 people take the easy money, right? Like they take the fast money. Something pumps and they're like, well, I'm sitting on $1 million. What I'm going to do is like, I'm going to sell it and I don't care how many people it hurts, right? And that's unethical in my view. maybe it's not illegal to do something like that, or sometimes it maybe is. I don't know. That's not up for me to decide. But it's, in my view, highly unethical, where if you're going to sell prematurely, when you're a large holder of a project, I believe that you have some moral obligation to act differently than your average holder. That's my core belief. And some people will say, "Oh no, it's every man for themselves. Dog eat dog world." I completely disagree. That's not a world that I want to live in at all. So I have a moral obligation because I kind of was the one that like put Andy on the map. I found it 3 weeks after launch at sub $1 million market cap. I have a moral obligation to do everything I possibly can because of how many people that I showed the play to. You can sell and do whatever you want to do. Me, I simply cannot, because it would be highly unethical and it would not align with the framework in which I live my life around at all. If I were to sell, thousands of people would be in a worse place. I simply cannot do that, right? And I think that's also something that's plagued the crypto asset class, is that everybody acts incredibly selfishly. Top holders of projects, they're all in it for themselves. They're going to just, they're going to distribute everything they can do. Every time they try to orchestrate a pump, they sell into and hurt everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, I can sleep at night because I know that I do the right thing, and to me, that's worth a lot more than some quick money. There were numerous times I could have taken the quick money. I've never done it. In my experience in life, whether it's crypto or anything, you always end up in a worse spot by taking the easy route. Always. You may not feel like it at the time, and the battle is tough, whatever it may be. Always lean into the harder route, Always lean into it. Always lean into it. Give yourself the toughest possible battle and then fight your way out of it, So I'm like, do you think it's fun for me to be a mascot of a shitcoin? Like, do you think that's easy? You know how many people reach out to me every day, Hey, can you post a tweet? Hey, can you post an update? And I'm happy to do it. But it's like, it's tough work. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of money at stake, So it's like, hold people to a higher standard. Like, this space is littered with criminals. When I founded Because Bitcoin, the main reason that I formed it was, well, there were a few reasons, but one of the main reasons that I formed it was because I saw so much greed and selfishness and just financial malfeasance last cycle. And I was like, somebody has to fix this. Somebody has to show people that it can be done differently. So I put together a team of really strong guys, some of the best traders that I know. And they all have a very similar kind of moral framework that they operate around. They don't take scammy deals. They don't take paid deals. They don't do these scammy games that end up zero sum for most people. So it's a slower path to growth. People will say like, "Oh, I'm still early to BB. Like, how's your channel only have like 20,000 followers or whatever?" And I'm like, "Because we don't do any of that crap. Like, that's how people get big quickly, is they do that crap. They join the machine. They do the hype stuff. Like, we don't do any of that.
When you start scamming, it's easy to grow. It's easy to grow when you start scamming.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, look at who blows up quickly. Like, it's goofballs, The serious guys, they come up slowly over time, So I'm just saying, like, don't accept that type of conduct just because that's crypto and that's how it's always been done. I don't accept that at all, You don't get rugged and just be like, well, it's crypto, that's the risks. Nope, it's not, It's not. And just because these people don't go to jail for it doesn't mean that it's not wrong, because it is. So I'm just saying, like, you can keep like gambling on these new shit coins that come out and stuff, and it's like, stop paying these criminals, Like, that's how they make their money. Stop paying them, Anyways, yeah, dude. Okay, and the max ETH token, Dude, they sent me, first of all, some scammers launched the thing without even consulting me or talking to me about it. I get off a flight from Europe, and I've got 5% of the supply of this token named after me with my profile picture. I had no idea what it was, didn't know who was behind it. Everyone's messaging me. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just got off like a 12-hour flight to Europe. Okay. Then they rug the thing, right? People that bought into it thinking somehow it had to do with me when it didn't, they got hurt. Right. Then some guys decide to CTO it, some good guys that are still pushing it. They pumped the thing up to like 40 million market cap. Do you know how much those tokens were worth? They were worth almost $2 million at the peak, sitting in a wallet. And I didn't sell any of it. You want to know why I didn't sell any of it? As much as $2 million sounds really nice. You want to know why I didn't sell any of it? Because you don't dump on people that support you. Because you don't hurt people that support you. There are things that are more important than money. How could I, in my position, sell something, ruin a project, ruin thousands of people financially that bought this thing, thinking they're supporting me? How could I possibly take the money and hurt those people? How many people out there would sit on it was $1.8 million of a token and not sell a single penny of it? Not many. So I
might have blacklisted your wallet too.
What's that?
So they might have blacklisted your wallet too. You never know. They might have sent you the token and blacklisted you.
No, they didn't, and I know that because I've sent it out. I've given away some to like people in the community. Like I don't even view it as money. Like I've given it to people in BB. Like I'll be like, hey, like we did like a poker competition. I gave some guy like $1,000 of it, and I think he sold it or something. So it's like, it's like you just never give into that temptation, man, in anything, like never. You simply cannot do it.
I've never taken a paid deal ever on Twitter. Never taken.
You know how much money because Bitcoin has turned down in paid shill deals even last year? I don't even want to say the number publicly because it's literally disgusting. It is like, you'll be like, what the fuck, Max? We would understand if you did it. I'll never do it. I will never do it. All I will do is encourage you to buy the BB terminal or our Discord packages because it's a good deal and it's something that we control. There's quality control in it. We don't do that crap. Never.
Andrew Tate's been scamming his followers for like years, bro. That don't surprise me.
These people, they make a living scamming everybody. And then everyone's like, oh, that's just him. That's just, that's just what he does. And it's crypto. Nope, it's not. He's an asshole. That's what it is. He's a scammer. I'm not even talking about any one person. It's just like in general. Nope, that's not acceptable. Nope, he's a bad person. We all got our problems, but he did the wrong thing. That's what it is.
I think Tommy went MIA.
Yeah, Tommy's crying from my spiel. He's like, we've come such a long way.
What's your thoughts on James Wynn? I think it's an industry plant personally, but I think his P&Ls are also fake, but that's just my own perspective.
I actually don't want to comment on him.
Okay.
But I'll tell you about it after. But yeah, I actually think he is exactly who he says he is. And I have some proof that he actually is exactly who he said he is. I thought maybe for a second something was going on and he was like a plant, but I no longer think that. But I don't really want to comment on it because I just do not want to be involved at all, honestly. But yeah, it was interesting to watch. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, if you did lose that much money, I would say keep practice trading. You might need to get on the terminal there, James Wynn. You might want to learn some TA a little bit. We'll teach you. Yeah, but yeah, definitely, to long that position to me was wild. It was absolutely wild to try and long a breakout.
So someone asked, so Max, when will you sell these alts since never, since you don't want to dump on followers? No, I'll definitely sell all of my altcoins, but I'll do it at the right time when it doesn't hurt a ton of people. there are conditions in which it's appropriate to unload huge
High
positions
volume.
in, and it doesn't hurt people. And there's a way to do it. For example, when ETH is pumping aggressively over 5, 6, 7K, and ETH BTC has been rallying for 3 months, there's going to be so much intraday volume on these coins where if something like Andy, when it's ripping its hardest, Andy is going to do something like 100 million in volume on its best day in the future, right? I'm not going to have a big enough bag where I couldn't slowly shave some into conditions like that. It all has to do with volume. That's it. It's people buying and selling and trading. That's it. So when there's a day where ETH is ripping and we're getting towards the cycle end and all of my conditions in which I've been honoring for over a year that I said I would sell into, ETH BTC pumping for at least a quarter, ETH and price discovery, Pepe probably around 50 billion, Bitcoin 150K plus, right? Some of these targets that will bring in huge volume, you're not even going to feel a guy like me selling if he does it the right way. You won't even notice. You'll probably be tracking my wallet, but it won't affect anybody. If I were to start selling now with low volume and on-chain shitcoins across the board, you would see it. You would feel it. You'd see all the drama, right? So it's being patient and waiting for the appropriate conditions where everybody, the most amount of people can possibly win, right? And every large holder, I believe, has that responsibility. I do.
It's funny you bring that up, Max, because it just and no offense, Sosa. I mean, it's a good question for somebody who may not understand, but the point that I'm trying to get to is a lot of people don't understand volume, right, and how to sell into volume. That is a big part of trading, because if you're going to sell a large position, you need incoming flows, and you have to understand how and when the appropriate time to sell into those incoming flows is. Like, for instance, Ski Mask Dog, that was an easy one because the volume was so heavy on that coin, you could completely clip out in chunks, and the chart just kept going up, right? It's being able to find those optimal positions to get out. That's why when people are like, why would you sell here? Like SPX, for instance, people are like, why would you sell SPX? Because SPX right now has the volume to sell. It has the move to sell. There's plenty of volume here to sell into without destroying the chart. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that aspect. You sell into the move.
Yeah, exactly. You sell into the move, you don't create the move. And that's what I think a lot of large holders I think they know it. I think they just don't care. And because also in crypto, there's this kind of like veil of anonymity that people hide behind where like no one knows really who it is. So it's like, who cares? Right? They can just do whatever they want. And honestly, it's still wrong. Like I think it's wrong. So it is what it is. But anyways, guys, that's going to take us into the end of the show. And here's the thing. I went on that whole spiel. There's a reason we built our own ecosystem, right? We built this honestly one-of-a-kind product, the BB terminal. We have this Discord that we put in 8 hours a day, work into. We don't like our business is entirely supported by those products. Entirely. We don't have any sponsors. We don't do it. There's a reason here on YouTube you don't see us shilling anything. Like, hey, sign up here, deposit for, 5K bonus, like we don't do any of that stuff, right? So we rely on you guys supporting us through the products that we do build ourselves and we sell. So that segues us perfectly into the end of the show. If you want to level up your game, if you want to give yourself all the tools necessary to succeed in these markets, and there's probably some tools that you guys already use, get them from us here at BB, guys. We've compiled everything into one amazing super website, the BB Terminal. And if you really want to level up, go to our website, becausebitcoin.com/premium, and you can join the Discord, guys, where we do 2 hours a day. We do 2 private voice calls every morning and every afternoon with the entire BB team and community. We have active positions channels, setups, streams, literally everything, guys. Everything. And if you're in the Discord, you get BB Terminal included. Okay. So again, keep the lights on at BB. Use our products instead of some random products that, you know, you don't even know who built them or whatever. Support BB, right? Back the good guys. But anyways, guys, we're going to run a BB terminal commercial. Check it out. It's a cool one. And then check out the links in the description below, bbterminal.com or becausebitcoin.com/premium. We will see you guys tomorrow. No, we'll see you. Today's Friday. We'll see you Monday for another episode of Market Check brought to you by BB. Thank you guys for being here, not just today, but every single day. We love you all, and we'll see you next week. Will, thanks for being here. See you guys next week. Take care.
Tired of outdated trading tools, confused charts, dozens of tabs, endless stress? You're not alone. Introducing BB Terminal, your all-in-one command center for crypto trading. Track your portfolio, monitor the markets, stay ahead, all in one place. From chaos to clarity, from struggle to success. BB Terminal,